Sir, I need to ask you something about that tattoo on your wrist. Dominic Castellano didn't look up from his phone. He'd learned long ago that waitresses only interrupted for two reasons: empty glasses or mistakes with the bill. And his glass was full. "What about it?" he said, still typing an email. The young woman's voice trembled. "My mother. She has the exact same one, same place, same design. A compass rose with a date underneath." Now Dominic looked up. The waitress stood beside his table, water pitcher shaking in her hands. She couldn't have been more than 25, dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, brown eyes that looked too serious for someone so young. "Lots of people have compass tattoos," Dominic said, though his throat suddenly felt tight. "It's not exactly unique." "But the date underneath yours," the girl leaned closer, squinting at his wrist. "Is it June 14th, 2000? The phone slipped from Dominic's hand, clattered onto the white tablecloth. His heart, the one that had been beating steady for 50 years, suddenly forgot how to work properly. "How did you know that?" His voice came out wrong, too high, too shaky. "Because my mother says the same date. She got hers 25 years ago in Boston. She was with a man she loved. They got matching tattoos the day they decided to spend their lives together." The waitress's eyes filled with tears. "But there was an accident, a car crash. She woke up in the hospital alone. He was gone. She tried to find him but couldn't. And she's been looking at that tattoo every single day since, remembering the man she lost." Dominic couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything except stare at this young woman who'd just spoken words that shouldn't be possible. Because 25 years ago, June 14th, 2000, Dominic Castellano had been in Boston with a woman named Isabella Romano. They'd gotten matching compass tattoos at a shop in the North End, promised to always find their way back to each other no matter what. Then, that same night, they'd crashed Isabella's car on the way home. Dominic had woken up 3 days later in Mass General Hospital, alone. The nurses told him Isabella Romano had died on impact, that he was lucky to be alive. They'd lied. Before we continue, please take a second to subscribe and comment below telling us where you are watching from. Now, back to our story. "What's your mother's name?" Dominic whispered. "Isabella," the girl said. "Isabella Romano." The world stopped. Isabella was alive, and this girl, this waitress with his brown eyes and Isabella's delicate features, might be the daughter he never knew he had. "What's your name?" Dominic asked, though he already knew, already felt it in his bones. "Sophia," she said. "Sophia Romano. I'm 24 years old, and according to my birth certificate, my father's name is listed as unknown." Dominic looked down at his wrist, at the compass rose tattoo he'd gotten with the only woman he'd ever truly loved, the woman who'd supposedly died 25 years ago, the woman who was alive, who'd had his child, who'd been out there all this time while he built an empire to fill the hole she'd left. "Sophia," he said slowly, "I think we need to talk, and then—" He stood on shaking legs. "Then, you need to take me to your mother." Let me tell you about Dominic Castellano. 50 years old, built Castellano Properties into a $4 billion real estate empire, owned hotels, office buildings, and apartment complexes from New York to Dubai. Forbes listed him as one of the 100 richest men in America. But money hadn't brought him happiness. It had just bought him bigger spaces to be alone in. Dominic had never married, never had children, or so he'd thought. He'd dated over the years, intelligent women, beautiful women, women who understood his world of board meetings and acquisitions. But none of them had been Isabella Romano. They'd met in the summer of 1999. Dominic was 25, working 2 jobs to save money for his first property investment. Isabella was 23, teaching art at a community center in Boston's North End. She'd been painting a mural on the side of a building Dominic was considering buying. He'd stopped to watch her work. They'd started talking. By sunset, he knew he'd found something more valuable than any property. Someone who saw him, not his ambitions. They fell in love the old-fashioned way. Long walks through Boston Common. Dinner at cheap Italian restaurants. Conversations that lasted until 3 a.m. about dreams and fears and everything in between. Isabella wanted to open her own art studio someday. Dominic wanted to build something that mattered. They promised to help each other achieve those dreams. On June 14, 2000, exactly 1 year after they met, Dominic took Isabella to a tattoo shop in the North End. "I want us to have something permanent," he'd said. "Something that proves this is real, that we're forever." They'd chosen Compass roses, because no matter where life took them, they'd always find their way back to each other. The tattoo artist had added the date underneath, 6/14/2000. "Now we're bound," Isabella had said, kissing his newly inked wrist. Forever. That night, driving home from dinner, everything had changed. Dominic still remembered fragments. Isabella laughing at something he'd said. Headlights coming at them from the wrong direction. The sound of metal crushing. Isabella screaming his name. Then, nothing. He'd woken up 3 days later in a hospital bed. Broken ribs, collapsed lung, head trauma that left him confused for weeks. The doctor had delivered the news gently. "I'm sorry, Mr. Castellano. The woman who was with you in the accident, Isabella Romano, she didn't survive. She was pronounced dead at the scene." Dominic had asked to see her, to say goodbye, but they told him the body had already been released to family, that her parents had taken her back to Italy for burial. He'd tried to contact them, sent letters, made phone calls, but the Romanos never responded. Eventually, Dominic had to accept the truth. Isabella was gone, and all he had left was a compass tattoo and memories of one perfect year. He'd thrown himself into work, built his first building, then another, then 100 more, made his first million by 30, first billion by 45. But success felt hollow, because the woman he'd wanted to share it with was 6 feet underground, or so he'd thought, until 24-year-old Sofia Romano appeared in his restaurant and asked about a tattoo that should have been buried with her mother 25 years ago. Now let me tell you about Isabella Romano. She'd woken up in Mass General Hospital 5 days after the accident, alone, confused, with a head injury that had stolen pieces of her memory. The doctors told her she'd been in a car crash, that she was lucky to be alive. But when she asked about the man who'd been driving, the man with the compass tattoo who'd promised to love her forever, they'd said there was no man. "You were driving alone, Miss Romano. That's what the police report says." Isabella had tried to argue, tried to explain that Dominic Castellano had been with her, that they'd just gotten matching tattoos, that they were going to get married. But her parents, strict Italian Catholics who'd never approved of Dominic, had intervened. "There was no man, Isabella," her father had said firmly. "You've been confused since the accident. The head injury is affecting your memory." They'd convinced the doctors Isabella was mentally unstable, got her transferred to a psychiatric facility for her own safety, kept her there for 3 months while they moved her belongings back to their home in Providence, Rhode Island. By the time Isabella was released, she'd started doubting her own memories. Maybe there hadn't been a man. Maybe she'd invented Dominic Castellano as a coping mechanism for the trauma. Except for the tattoo. The compass rose on her wrist with the date underneath, physical proof that something, someone, had been real. 2 months after the accident, Isabella discovered she was pregnant. Her parents wanted her to take care of it, but Isabella refused, because even if her memories were confused, even if Dominic Castellano might have been a dream, this baby was real. Sophia was born in April 2001. A healthy girl with her mother's dark hair and eyes that looked like they belonged to someone else. Someone Isabella couldn't quite remember, but felt in her bones she'd loved. Isabella raised Sophia alone in Providence, worked as a waitress to pay bills, painted in whatever free time she had, and every night before bed she'd look at the compass tattoo and whisper to the man she might have loved, "Wherever you are, I hope you're happy." She never tried to find Dominic. Her parents insisted he'd never existed, and after years of being told you're crazy, you start to believe it. Until Sophia turned 18 and demanded to know about her father. "I don't know," Isabella had admitted. "There was a man, I think. But after the accident, everything got confused. I only remember his face in pieces, dark hair, kind eyes, a smile that made me feel safe." "What about the tattoo?" Sophia had asked, pointing at her mother's wrist. "Someone gave you that. Someone real." "Yes, but I don't remember his name, or where he is. Just that once, a long time ago, someone loved me enough to promise forever." Now Sophia stood in Manhattan's finest Italian restaurant, staring at a billionaire whose wrist bore the other half of her mother's forever promise. And Dominic Castellano, who'd spent 25 years mourning a dead woman, was about to discover that the love of his life had been alive all along. They sat in Dominic's private office above the restaurant. Sophia perched nervously on the edge of a leather chair. Dominic paced behind his desk like a caged animal. "Tell me everything," he said. "From the beginning, your mother, where she lives, how she is, everything." Sophia took a shaky breath. "Mom lives in Providence, Rhode Island. She works as a waitress, same as me, has for 20 years. We've never had much money, but she made sure I had what I needed. Put me through community college. Always said education was important, even when we could barely afford groceries." Dominic's jaw clenched. While he'd been building billion-dollar hotels, Isabella had been struggling to feed their daughter. The injustice of it made him want to punch something. "What does she remember about me?" he asked. "About us?" "Not much. The accident gave her head trauma. Her memories from before are fuzzy. She knows there was a man, someone she loved. She looks at that tattoo every single day and tries to remember his face." Sophia's voice caught. "But her parents convinced her she'd imagined you, that the head injury made her create false memories." Her parents. Dominic's voice turned cold. "Antonio and Maria Romano. You knew them?" "I met them twice. They hated me, said I wasn't good enough for their daughter, that I had no education, no prospects, no future. They wanted Isabella to marry some nice Italian boy from Providence." He stopped pacing. "Sophia, I need you to understand something. I didn't leave your mother. I would never have left her. They told me she died, showed me paperwork, made me believe she was gone." Sophia stood, walked to where Dominic stood. "I believe you, because I've spent my whole life watching my mother stare at that tattoo like it's the only real thing in a world of lies. She never dated, never even looked at another man. She said once that when you find your soulmate, nobody else will ever compare." "She said that?" "Every time I asked why she didn't try to meet someone, she'd touch that compass rose and say, 'Your father, whoever he was my forever. Even if I can't remember his name, I remember how he made me feel. And that feeling doesn't come twice in one lifetime." Dominic had to sit down. His legs wouldn't hold him anymore. 25 years. Isabella had been out there for 25 years, remembering the feeling of being loved even when she couldn't remember his face. "I need to see her," he said. "Right now, tonight. Where is she?" "She's working at Bruno's Diner in Providence. She works the night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., because it pays better." Sophia checked her watch. "She starts in 2 hours. Then we leave in 1 hour. I'll have my driver take us." "Wait." Sophia held up her hand. "You can't just show up. She doesn't know you're alive, doesn't know I came looking for you. If you walk in there after 25 years, it might..." I don't care. I've wasted 25 years thinking she was dead. I'm not wasting one more second. Dominic grabbed his phone, started making calls. Cancel my appointments for tomorrow and the day after. Actually, cancel everything for the next week. His assistant started to protest. Dominic cut her off. I just found out the love of my life didn't die 25 years ago, that I have a daughter. So unless the building is literally on fire, everything else can wait. He hung up, looked at Sophia, really looked at her for the first time since the bombshell. She had Isabella's delicate bone structure, his brown eyes, Isabella's artistic hands, his stubborn chin. She was beautiful in the way that proved genetics were real, a perfect blend of two people who'd loved each other for one brief, shining year. Sophia, he said quietly, I don't know what happens next. I don't know if your mother will remember me, or want to see me, or forgive me for not finding her sooner. But I need you to know something. What? If you are my daughter, and everything in me says you are, then I've missed 24 years of your life. Birthdays, graduations, first days of school, all of it. And I can't get those back. But from this moment forward, if you'll let me, I want to be part of your life. Not because I'm rich, not because I can buy you things, but because you're my daughter, and I should have been there. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. You don't even know me. I know you work as a waitress to help your mother. I know you noticed a stranger's tattoo and had the courage to ask about it. I know you're standing here instead of running away, even though this is probably the strangest night of your life. Dominic smiled. That's enough to know you're someone worth knowing. Sophia wiped her eyes. Okay, let's go see Mom. But I'm warning you, she's going to either faint or cry or possibly throw something at you. All acceptable reactions, Dominic said. Let's go. The drive to Providence took 90 minutes. Dominic spent the whole time asking Sophia questions about her childhood, her education, her dreams, everything he'd missed. Sophia told him about growing up in a small apartment above a convenience store, about her mother painting murals on weekends for extra money, about scholarships that almost covered college, about working 3 jobs to make up the difference. Mom wanted me to be an artist like her, Sophia said. But I went into business instead. Figured it was more practical, more stable. Do you like business? Not really, but it pays the bills. Dominic recognized himself in that answer, the way practical choices could bury dreams. What would you do if money wasn't an issue? Sophia hesitated. I'd study art history, maybe work in a museum, or help Mom open that studio she always dreamed about. Then do it. I can't just, yes, you can. If I'm your father, and we'll do a DNA test to be sure, then you're my heir, which means money isn't an issue anymore. So do what makes you happy. Sophia stared at him. You just met me an hour ago, and you're my daughter. That's how this works. They pulled up to Bruno's Diner at 10:45 p.m. A classic American diner with chrome trim and neon signs. The parking lot was half full, the late-night crowd grabbing burgers and coffee. Dominic's hands were shaking as they walked to the door. Ready? Sophia asked. No, but let's do this anyway. They stepped inside. The smell of coffee and frying bacon hit immediately. Booths lined the walls. A long counter ran down the middle. Classic 1950s music played from invisible speakers, and behind the counter, refilling a customer's coffee, stood Isabella Romano. She'd aged, of course, 48 now instead of 23, gray threads in her dark hair, fine lines around her eyes. But she was still the most beautiful woman Dominic had ever seen. She moved with the same grace, smiled at customers with the same warmth, carried herself with quiet dignity despite wearing a diner uniform. Then she looked up, saw Sophia, smiled and waved, and saw the man standing beside her daughter. The coffee pot slipped from Isabella's hand, shattered on the tile floor. Hot coffee spread in every direction. Customers jumped, someone yelped. But Isabella didn't move, just stood frozen, staring at Dominic like she was seeing a ghost. Her hand went to her wrist, to the compass tattoo. Her lips formed a single word. Dominic? He crossed the diner in 5 long strides, didn't care about the broken glass, didn't care about the staring customers, didn't care about anything except the woman who was supposed to be dead but was standing right in front of him. Isabella. His voice broke on her name. You're alive. You're really alive. You're real, she whispered. I thought I'd imagined you. My parents said... She stopped. Her eyes went wide. 25 years! Where have you been for 25 years? Looking for you in all the wrong places, Dominic said. They told me you died. Your parents, the hospital, everyone. They said you died in the crash, and I believed them. Isabella's legs gave out. Dominic caught her before she fell, held her up, held her close. Breathed in the scent of her hair, different shampoo after all these years, but still unmistakably her. I never stopped loving you, he said into her ear. Not for one single day. Isabella pulled back, looked at him with eyes full of tears and wonder and 25 years of unanswered questions. Then she slapped him, hard. That's for taking 25 years to find me, she said. Then she kissed him. And that's because I never stopped loving you either. Bruno, the diner's owner, cleared the dining room after what he called the reunion heard round Providence. He sent the night shift crew home early, flipped the sign to closed, and told Dominic, Isabella, and Sophia to take all the time they needed. On the house, he'd said with a knowing smile. Something tells me you folks have some catching up to do. Now they sat in a corner booth, Isabella and Dominic on one side, Sophia across from them, trying to piece together 25 years of missing time. Start from the beginning, Isabella said, her hand still clasped tightly in Dominic's, like she was afraid he'd vanish if she let go. The hospital. What happened after the crash? Dominic took a steadying breath. I woke up 3 days later. Broken ribs, punctured lung, head trauma. The doctor said I was lucky to be alive. He paused. They also said you weren't, that you died on impact, that your body had already been released to your family for burial. Isabella's free hand flew to her mouth. But I didn't die. I was in the same hospital, 2 floors up. I know that now. But then, Dominic's voice hardened. Your parents lied to everyone. The doctors, the police, me. They must have bribed someone to falsify records, to make it look like you died. Why would they do that? Sophia asked. Isabella closed her eyes. Because they never wanted me with Dominic in the first place. My father said he was beneath us, that he'd never amount to anything, that I was throwing my life away on some poor boy with big dreams and no prospects. So they saw the accident as an opportunity, Dominic said bitterly. Get rid of me permanently. Convince you I'd never existed. Control your life the way they always wanted to. But they made a mistake, Isabella said, touching her wrist. They forgot about the tattoo. When I woke up and saw this, I knew something was wrong. I remembered getting it, remembered standing in that shop with a man I loved. Even when my memories got fuzzy from the head injury, the tattoo stayed real. What happened when you asked about me? They said I'd imagined you, that the trauma had created false memories. My father brought doctors who backed up his story. After 3 months in a psychiatric facility being told you weren't real, I started to doubt my own mind. Tears streamed down Isabella's face. I'm so sorry. I should have fought harder, should have looked for you, should have known my parents were lying. You had a head injury. They manipulated you. None of that is your fault. Dominic cupped her face with his free hand. What matters is we're here now, together, finally. But 25 years, Isabella whispered. We lost 25 years. You built an empire. I struggled to pay rent. Our daughter grew up without a father. How do we get that time back? We don't. We can't. Dominic looked at Sophia. But we can make sure the next 25 years are different, better, the way they should have been all along. Sophia had been quiet, watching her parents with an expression caught between joy and sadness. I need to ask something, and I need an honest answer. Anything, Dominic said. Are you going to be a real father, or just a rich guy who writes checks and disappears? Because Mom and I, we've survived on our own for 24 years. We don't need money. We need family. The question hung in the air. Dominic had been asked many things in his life, about investments, strategies, deals, but never about something that mattered this much. Sophia, I can't change that I missed your first 24 years, but I can promise you won't miss me in the next 24, or the ones after that. He reached across the table. I want to be your father, not your bank account, your actual father, the one who shows up, who cares, who's there. Sophia took his hand. Okay, but I'm warning you, I'm not easy to impress. I don't care about expensive things or fancy restaurants. I care about people showing up when they say they will. Then I'll show up, every time. Isabella squeezed Dominic's other hand. We all will. We're a family now. Strange and broken and 25 years late, but family. They talked until sunrise, about everything. The good years before the accident, the hard years after, the paths their lives had taken when fate tore them apart. Dominic told them about building his empire, about the sleepless nights and ruthless deals and empty victories that meant nothing without someone to share them with. Isabella told them about raising Sophia, about the murals she'd painted to pay bills, about the art studio dream she'd put on hold to make sure her daughter had food and clothes and a chance at something better. Sophia told them about growing up poor but loved, about wondering who her father was, about the ache of not knowing where you came from. I used to make up stories, Sophia admitted, about who my dad might be. Sometimes he was an artist like Mom. Sometimes he was a soldier who died a hero. Never a billionaire, though. That wouldn't have occurred to me in a million years. Dominic laughed, actually laughed for the first time in hours. Life is stranger than fiction. Speaking of strange, Isabella said slowly, what do we do now? I mean, practically. You live in Manhattan. I live in Providence. You run a billion-dollar company. I serve coffee at a diner. How does this work? However we want it to work. Dominic had clearly been thinking about this. Option 1. You and Sophia move to New York. I buy you an apartment, set you both up. We figure out life from there. I can't just accept charity. It's not charity. It's what I should have been providing for 25 years. Child support, alimony, support for the woman I loved and the daughter I didn't know I had. What's option 2? Sophia asked. I sell everything, move to Providence, start over. Be the man Isabella fell in love with instead of the billionaire I became to fill the hole she left. Isabella stared at him. You'd do that? Give up your empire? In a heartbeat. I built all of it trying to forget you. If I have you back, I don't need any of it. That's insane. That's love. They sat in silence. The morning sun streamed through the diner's windows. Early commuters drove past outside. The world kept turning like it always did, unaware that 3 lives had just been completely rearranged. Option 3, Sophia said quietly. We don't change everything overnight. We give ourselves time. Mom keeps her job for now. I keep mine. You visit on weekends. We get to know each other slowly, like normal people do. I'm not good at slow, Dominic admitted. Then learn. Sophia's voice was firm. Because if you're going to be my dad, you need to understand something. Mom and I have a life here, friends, routines. You can't just swoop in with money and expect us to drop everything. She's right, Isabella said. I want you in my life, Dominic. God knows I've dreamed about finding you again for 25 years. But I'm not 23 anymore. I can't just follow my heart without thinking about consequences. Dominic wanted to argue, wanted to demand they come with him right now, wanted to make up for lost time immediately. But he looked at Sophia, his daughter who'd grown up without him, and saw the wariness in her eyes, the fear that he'd be like every other powerful man who thought money solved everything. Okay, he said. Slow. We'll do slow. I'll come here on weekends. We'll have dinner, talk, get to know each other properly. And when everyone's ready, if everyone's ready, we'll figure out the next step. You'd really do that? Sophia asked. Not rush us? I'd do anything for a chance to be your father. Even wait. Isabella leaned her head on Dominic's shoulder. I missed you every single day. Even when I couldn't remember your name, I missed the feeling of being with you. I missed you too, more than I knew how to say. So what happens now? Dominic checked his watch, 7:15 a.m. Now I watch you finish your shift. Then I take you both to breakfast. Then I drive back to Manhattan and count the hours until I can come back next weekend. That's it? Sophia asked. No grand gestures? No sweeping us off our feet? Not yet. Right now, I'm just a man who wants to know his daughter and win back the woman he never stopped loving. Dominic smiled. The grand gestures can wait. The weekends became sacred. Every Friday evening, Dominic's driver would bring him to Providence. He'd check into a modest hotel. Not the Ritz, not anywhere fancy. Just a clean room near Bruno's Diner where he could be close to Isabella and Sophia. Saturdays meant breakfast together, lunch, dinner. Long walks through Roger Williams Park where Dominic learned what he'd missed. Sophia's childhood, Isabella's struggles, the life they'd built without him. Sundays meant helping Isabella with grocery shopping, teaching Sophia about business when she showed interest, being normal in ways billionaires rarely got to be. 3 months into this routine, Dominic arrived to find Isabella painting in her small apartment. The living room had been transformed into a makeshift studio. Canvas propped on an easel, paint splattered across drop cloths, the smell of turpentine mixing with coffee. I didn't know you still painted, Dominic said from the doorway. Isabella turned, brush in hand. I don't. Not really. Not for years. But last week, Sophia asked if I still had my art supplies. Said she missed watching me create things. She gestured at the half-finished canvas, a landscape of the Boston Common where she and Dominic used to walk. So I decided to try again. Dominic stepped closer. The painting was beautiful, vibrant, full of life and memory and hope. You're incredibly talented, he said. You always were. Talent doesn't pay bills. Maybe it should. Dominic had been thinking about this for weeks. Isabella, can I show you something? Show me what? A space I've been looking at, in downtown Providence. I want your opinion. 20 minutes later, they stood in front of a vacant storefront on Westminster Street. Large windows, high ceilings, perfect natural light streaming through dusty glass. What is this? Isabella asked. Your art studio, if you want it. Isabella's breath caught. Dominic, before you say no, hear me out. He pulled up photos on his phone. I'd renovate it, put in proper lighting, storage, workspaces. You could teach classes, sell your art, finally do what you always dreamed about. I can't accept this. It's too much. It's not charity. It's an investment. In you, in us, in the dream we should have built together 25 years ago. He showed her the floor plans. There's an apartment upstairs, 2 bedrooms. You and Sophia could live there, be close to your work, have stability. Isabella looked at the building, at the life Dominic was offering, at the dream she'd given up when she chose survival over art. Why? She asked. Why now? Because I spent 25 years making money, and it meant nothing. But helping you, helping our daughter, that means everything. Dominic took her hand. Let me do this, not because you need rescuing, but because you deserve to create instead of just survive. What if I fail? What if I can't make the studio profitable? Then we try something else. But Isabella, you've been failing on purpose for 25 years, working minimum wage jobs when you have enough talent to be in galleries, hiding your gift because you had to pay rent. His voice was gentle but firm. Let yourself succeed. Just once. See what happens. Isabella looked at the storefront, at the dream made tangible, at the man who was offering her everything she'd wanted since she was 23 years old. Okay, she whispered. Let's do it. The renovations took 3 months. Dominic oversaw every detail personally, made sure the lighting was perfect, the ventilation proper, the workspaces exactly what Isabella needed. On opening day, a warm Saturday in June, the Romano Art Studio welcomed its first students. 10 people signed up for beginner painting classes, 5 more for advanced techniques. Local papers ran articles about the struggling waitress turned art teacher. Sophia quit her waitress job to become the studio manager. She handled bookings, marketing, finances, all the business aspects Isabella hated. Mother and daughter worked side by side, building something real. Dominic watched from the back during that first class. Isabella, standing in front of students, teaching them about color theory and brushstrokes and how to see the world as artists do. She was radiant, alive in ways she hadn't been since before the accident. This was who she was meant to be, not a waitress scraping by, but a teacher sharing her gift. After class, Isabella found Dominic still sitting there. You stayed the whole time, she said. I wanted to see you happy, really happy, the way you were before everything fell apart. Isabella sat beside him. I haven't thanked you properly. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. You gave me back my dream. Most people don't get second chances like this. Most people don't lose 25 years to cruel parents and hospital lies. Dominic turned to face her. Isabella, I need to ask you something, and I need an honest answer. Okay. Do you think we can get it back, what we had? Or did those 25 years kill something that can't be revived? Isabella was quiet for a long moment. We can't get back what we had. We were kids then, idealistic and naive, and so sure love was enough to conquer everything. Dominic's heart sank. But, Isabella continued, maybe we can build something better, something that understands loss and hardship and what it means to survive. Something stronger than the first time, because it's been tested. You think so? I know so, because I fell in love with a dreamer who had nothing but ambition, and I'm falling in love again with a man who has everything, but chooses to spend his weekends helping me paint walls in Providence. She smiled. That's real, Dominic. That's worth building on. So where do we go from here? Slowly, carefully, getting to know who we became in those 25 years apart. No rushing, no grand gestures, just us, figuring it out together. I can do slow, as long as it ends with you. It will, I promise. Isabella kissed him, soft and sweet and full of possibility. We've already wasted 25 years. Let's not waste whatever time we have left. 6 months after the studio opened, something happened that changed everything again. Dominic received a call from his lawyer. Antonio Romano, Isabella's father, had died. Heart attack. Quick and unexpected. The will reading was scheduled for the following week in Providence. "I'm not going," Isabella told Dominic when he mentioned it. "He stole 25 years from us. I don't care what's in his will." "What about your mother, Maria?" "What about her? She helped him lie, helped convince me you weren't real."
Why would I want anything from either of them?
But Sophia convinced her. "Mom, you need closure. Even if it's just to hear the will and walk away, you need to close that door properly." So they went, Dominic, Isabella, and Sophia, sitting in a lawyer's office while an attorney read Antonio Romano's last wishes. Most of the estate went to distant relatives in Italy, a few $1,000s here and there. Nothing surprising. Then the lawyer pulled out a sealed envelope. "There's also this, with specific instructions to be read only to Isabella Romano in the presence of her daughter." Isabella's hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a letter in her father's handwriting. "Isabella, if you're reading this, I'm dead, and you've likely spent years hating me. You're entitled to that hate. I earned it. What I did to you and Dominic Castellano was unforgivable. I lied to you, manipulated you, stole 25 years of happiness because I thought I knew better, because I was proud and stubborn and couldn't admit I'd been wrong about that boy. But I've watched him over the years, watched him build an empire, watched him become the man I told you he'd never be. And I realized something. I was wrong. About him. About everything. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know something. Every day for 25 years, your mother begged me to tell you the truth, to find Dominic, to undo what we'd done. I refused, out of pride, out of stubborn refusal to admit I'd been wrong. Maria is sick now, Alzheimer's. She doesn't remember most days, but on the days she does remember, she cries, says your name, says she's sorry. I'm sorry too, for whatever that's worth from a dead man who destroyed his daughter's happiness because he thought he knew best. The house in Providence is yours, free and clear. It's not enough. Nothing could be enough, but it's all I have left to give. Your father." Isabella sat in stunned silence, tears streaming down her face.
Sophia held her hand. Dominic stood behind her, steady and solid.
"He knew," Isabella whispered. "All these years he knew what he'd done. And he never tried to fix it," Dominic said, anger creeping into his voice. "Never reached out, never apologized while he was alive. But he admitted it. That's something. Is it? Is a deathbed confession enough?" Isabella looked up at him. "No, it's not enough, but it's closure. It's knowing that somewhere, in some part of him, he understood he'd been wrong." The lawyer cleared his throat. "There's more. Your mother, Maria Romano, is currently in assisted living. The costs are being covered by the estate, but she's been asking for you, Isabella, every day. She may not remember much, but she remembers you." "I don't know if I can face her," Isabella admitted. "You don't have to," Dominic said. "Not today, not ever, if you don't want to." But Sophia spoke up. "Maybe we should, all of us, because holding on to anger, it doesn't hurt them anymore. It only hurts us." Isabella looked at her daughter, 24 years old and somehow wiser than people twice her age. "When did you get so smart?" "I had a good teacher," Sophia smiled. "So what do you say? Visit Grandma? See if there's anything left worth saving?" Isabella took a deep breath. "Okay, let's go see her. But I'm not making any promises about forgiveness." "Fair enough," Dominic said. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." And he was, every step. Just like he'd promised 6 months ago when he'd said he'd show up every time. Some promises, it turned out, were worth keeping. Continuing with the climax resolution, epilogue, and final CTA. Sunrise Memory Care Facility sat on a quiet street in East Providence. Clean brick exterior, well-maintained gardens. The kind of place that promised dignity for people whose minds were slowly leaving them. Maria Romano sat in a sunlit common room, staring out the window at nothing in particular. She was 73 years old now, small and frail, her hair completely white, but her eyes, when they focused, still held flashes of the sharp woman she'd once been. "Mom?" Isabella's voice trembled as she approached. Maria turned, looked at Isabella. For a moment, there was nothing, just blank confusion. Then something shifted. Recognition flickered. "Isabella?" Maria's voice was paper thin. "My Isabella?" "Yes, Mom, it's me." Maria's face crumpled. "You came. I didn't think you'd come. I told him to tell you, but he said no, said you'd never forgive me." Isabella pulled up a chair, sat beside her mother. Dominic and Sophia stood back, giving them space. "I'm here now." "I'm so sorry." Tears streamed down Maria's weathered face. "For what we did. For the lies. For stealing your life. I wanted to tell you. Every day for 25 years, I wanted to tell you. But Antonio, he said it was for the best. That you'd be better off. That Dominic would only hurt you." "He didn't hurt me, Mom. You did. You and Dad. You stole 25 years from us." I know. Maria reached for Isabella's hand with trembling fingers. "Your father, before he died, he finally admitted he was wrong. Said that boy became everything Antonio swore he wouldn't. Said we'd ruined our daughter's life out of pride. He wrote me a letter. I know he was sorry. Sorry doesn't give you back the years." Maria looked at Dominic standing across the room. "That's him, isn't it? The boy from Boston? The one with the tattoo?" "Yes." Maria studied Dominic for a long moment. Then she said, "You built an empire. Forbes magazine, television interviews. Antonio watched every single one, kept a folder of articles about you. Never showed Isabella, but he knew. He knew he'd been wrong." Dominic stepped forward. He'd spent 25 years hating the Romanos, blaming them for every lonely night and hollow victory. But looking at this frail woman whose mind was leaving her, he felt something unexpected. Pity. "Mrs. Romano," he said gently, "I can't forgive what you did. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I understand you were trying to protect your daughter." "We were wrong." Maria's clarity was fading, the Alzheimer's stealing her back. "So wrong. And now I can't even remember most days. But I remember you, Isabella, my beautiful daughter. And I remember ruining your life." "You didn't ruin it, Mom. You delayed it. But we found our way back." Isabella gestured to Sophia. "And I had her, your granddaughter. She's the best thing that ever happened to me." Maria looked at Sophia. Confusion clouded her face. "Who?" "My daughter, your granddaughter, Sophia." But Maria had already lost the thread. She turned back to the window, forgetting Isabella was there, forgetting everything except the sunlight and whatever memories her broken mind chose to show her. "She's gone," Isabella whispered. "Even when she's here, she's gone." "I'm sorry," Dominic said. "I know this is hard." "It is, because part of me wanted to rage at her, to make her feel what she made me feel. But how do you rage at someone who can't remember the crime? You don't. You grieve, and you move forward." Isabella stood, kissed her mother's forehead. "Goodbye, Mom. I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace." Maria didn't respond, just kept staring out the window at a world only she could see. Outside the facility, Isabella broke down. 25 years of anger and grief and unanswered questions finally pouring out. Dominic held her while she cried. Sophia stood beside them, one hand on her mother's shoulder. I wasted so much time being angry, Isabella said through tears. And now there's nothing left to be angry at, just a sick old woman who doesn't remember any of it. You didn't waste time. You survived. That's not the same thing. Dominic tilted her chin up. And now you're free. Free from the anger. Free from wondering what they'd say if you confronted them. You're free, Isabella. So what do we do now? Now we live. Really live. The way we should have been living all along. Dominic pulled a small box from his pocket. Velvet. Old. The edges worn from 25 years of being carried everywhere. I bought this in June 2000, he said, opening it. Inside sat a diamond ring. Simple. Beautiful. The ring he'd planned to give Isabella before the accident. I've carried it for 25 years, waiting for the chance to ask you properly. Isabella's breath caught. Isabella Romano, I loved you when we were kids. I loved you through 25 years of thinking you were dead. And I love you now, standing here with our daughter, finally getting our second chance. Dominic got down on one knee right there in the parking lot. Will you marry me? For real this time. No parents to stop us, no lies to separate us. Just us. Building the life we were always meant to have. Isabella looked at the ring, at Dominic, at Sophia standing there crying happy tears. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. 25 years late, but yes. Dominic slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been waiting all this time to find its way home. Sophia rushed forward, throwing her arms around both of them. Finally! I've been waiting for this since the diner. They stood there, the family that should have existed 25 years ago, finally whole, finally together, finally free from the lies that had kept them apart. The wedding happened 3 months later. Not a big society affair. Dominic had offered, but Isabella refused. Instead, they got married at the Romano Art Studio on a Saturday afternoon in September. 50 people attended. Sophia's friends, Isabella's art students, Dominic's business partners who'd become actual friends over the years, Bruno from the diner, the nurses from Sunrise Memory Care who'd helped Isabella make peace with her mother. Maria wasn't there. Her condition had worsened. Most days, she didn't recognize anyone. But Isabella had visited her the morning of the wedding, shown her the dress, told her about Dominic. For just a moment, Maria's eyes had cleared. You're getting married? To the boy with the tattoo? Yes, Mom. Good. Don't wait too long to be happy. Life's shorter than you think. Then she'd faded again, back into the fog of forgetting. But that one moment of clarity had been enough. Isabella had her mother's blessing, even if Maria wouldn't remember giving it. Now Isabella stood at the front of her studio, wearing a simple cream dress. Dominic wore a suit, but no tie. Sophia had insisted he look like Dad, not CEO Dominic. The officiant asked the traditional questions about love and commitment and choosing each other every day. When it came time for vows, Isabella spoke first. Dominic, we lost 25 years. That's almost half our lives. I could spend forever being angry about that. Or I could spend forever being grateful for the years we have left. She took his hands. I choose grateful. I choose you. Again. Still. Always. Dominic's voice was thick with emotion when he spoke. I built an empire trying to forget you. Made billions trying to fill the hole you left. But all the money in the world meant nothing without you. He touched the compass tattoo on her wrist. This promised we'd find our way back to each other. It took 25 years, but here we are, and I'm never letting you go again. They exchanged rings, not new ones, but the rings from that velvet box Dominic had carried for a quarter century, the ones that had been waiting patiently for this exact moment. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may. Dominic kissed Isabella before the officiant finished. The crowd laughed and cheered. Sophia cried openly. Even Bruno, the diner owner, got misty-eyed. At the reception, Sophia gave a toast. Most kids grow up knowing their parents' love story, she said, glass raised. I grew up without one. Just my mom, a tattoo, and whispered memories of a man who might have been real. But now I know the truth. Love doesn't die just because circumstances tear it apart. Real love waits, endures, finds its way back. She looked at her parents. You two are proof that some promises are worth keeping, even when it takes 25 years to fulfill them. Later, after the toast and dancing and cake, Dominic and Isabella stood on the studio's balcony watching the sunset over Providence. Do you have regrets? Isabella asked. About the 25 years? About what we lost? Every single day, Dominic admitted. I regret not finding you sooner, not looking harder, not questioning the lies. But Isabella, I don't regret this moment. Right here, right now, with you. Me neither. She leaned into him. We can't change the past, but we can make the future worth the wait. So what does our future look like? Isabella smiled. I think it looks like mornings painting in the studio, afternoons teaching students, evenings with our daughter, weekends building the life we should have had. Normal, simple, real. Sounds perfect. What about your empire? Your hotels and deals and board meetings? Dominic had been thinking about this for months. I'm stepping back, promoting my COO to CEO, staying on the board but not running day-to-day operations. I spent 25 years building something to prove I mattered. Now, I want to spend however many years I have left actually living. You'd really give it up? I'm not giving it up. I'm choosing something better. I'm choosing you, us, the life I should have been living all along. They stood in comfortable silence as the sky turned pink and gold. Below, guests mingled and laughed. Sophia danced with friends. Life happened the way it was supposed to, full and messy and beautiful. Thank you, Isabella said quietly. For what? For not giving up. For carrying that ring for 25 years.
For stopping in that restaurant and listening to our daughter when she asked about a tattoo.
For choosing us over everything else. Thank you for surviving, for raising Sophia into someone amazing, for keeping that tattoo even when you thought I was a dream, for giving me a second chance I absolutely didn't deserve. We both deserved it. Everyone deserves a second chance at happiness. Dominic kissed the top of her head. Then here's to second chances, and to not wasting a single moment of however much time we have left. Deal. 5 years after that wedding, the Castellano family, Dominique, Isabella, and Sophia, sat around a dinner table in the house Dominic had bought in Providence. Not a mansion, not a penthouse, just a comfortable home with a big kitchen and a studio out back where Isabella painted when inspiration struck. Sophia was 29 now. She'd taken over management of Romano Art Studio and expanded it to 3 locations across Rhode Island. She'd also gotten married to a teacher she'd met at one of her mother's classes. Are you ready for this? Sophia asked, sliding an envelope across the table. For what? Isabella asked. Open it. Inside was an ultrasound photo and a note. Coming this spring, baby Castellano, your first grandchild. Isabella burst into tears, happy ones this time. You're pregnant? 3 months. We wanted to wait to tell you until we were sure everything was okay. Dominic stood and hugged his daughter. Congratulations, you're going to be an amazing mother. Better than my grandmother was, that's for sure, Sophia said with a laugh. Speaking of grandmothers, Isabella said quietly, I got a call from Sunrise today. Mom passed away, peacefully, in her sleep. They sat in silence for a moment. Maria Romano had lived 5 years longer than anyone expected, most of that time lost in the fog of Alzheimer's. But she'd had moments of clarity, days when she remembered Isabella, when she apologized again for what she'd done. Are you okay? Dominic asked Isabella. Yeah, I made my peace with her years ago. She was sick, broken, but she was still my mother, and in her own twisted way, she thought she was protecting me. Are we doing the service? Small one, just us. She didn't have anyone else left. 2 weeks later, they buried Maria Romano next to her husband in a Providence cemetery. Just Dominic, Isabella, and Sophia standing in the cold November rain. Should we say something? Sophia asked. Isabella thought for a moment, then said, Mom, you made terrible choices. Choices that cost us all dearly. But you gave me life, and you gave me the stubbornness to survive when everything fell apart. So thank you for that. And rest peacefully. Your burden is over now. Simple, honest, enough. They drove home through rain that reminded Dominic of the night 25 years ago when everything had changed. But this time, he wasn't alone. He had Isabella beside him, Sophia in the back seat, a grandchild coming in the spring. Life had a funny way of working out. Not quickly, not easily, but eventually, if you held on to hope long enough, things could align. That evening, after Sophia went home, Dominic and Isabella sat by the fireplace in their living room, both wearing comfortable clothes, Isabella's feet in Dominic's lap, a bottle of wine between them. Can I tell you something? Isabella said. Always. I used to dream about this. When Sophia was little and I was exhausted from working double shifts, I'd look at my tattoo and imagine what life would be like if you were real, if you came back, if we got a second chance. What did you imagine? Exactly this. Quiet evenings, simple happiness, you and me growing old together. She smiled. I never imagined billions of dollars or hotels or empires. Just you, present, real, choosing me every single day. And, did reality live up to the dream? It's better. Because dreams don't include morning breath, or arguments about whose turn it is to do dishes, or the way you snore when you're really tired. Reality is messier, but it's real, and real is better than any dream. Dominic pulled her closer. I wasted 25 years being successful but empty. These last 5 years with you and Sophia, they've been the richest years of my life, and I don't mean money. I know what you mean. They sat in comfortable silence. The fire crackled. Outside, Providence went about its evening business. Somewhere, their daughter was preparing to become a mother. Somewhere, the art studio Isabella had built was teaching people to see beauty. Somewhere, the empire Dominic had created was still running without him. And here, in this ordinary house on an ordinary street, two people who'd spent 25 years apart were finally, permanently, impossibly together. Dominic, Isabella said quietly. Yeah? If you could go back and change it, prevent the accident, stop my parents from lying, get all those years back, would you? It was a question Dominic had asked himself 1,000 times. I don't know, he admitted. Those years were hell, empty and lonely and full of missed moments. But they also made us who we are now. You survived raising Sophia alone. I learned that success means nothing without love. Sophia became strong because she had to be. So you wouldn't change it? I didn't say that. I'd change it in a heartbeat if I could. Give us back every year we lost, every moment we missed. He turned to look at her. But since I can't, I'm choosing to be grateful for what we have now instead of bitter about what we lost. That's very mature of you. Yeah, well, it only took me 55 years to figure out. Isabella laughed. The sound filled the room with warmth. Come on, old man, let's go to bed. We've got a grandchild to prepare for. A grandchild? Can you believe it? Honestly, no. 5 years ago, I was a waitress who thought she'd imagined the love of her life. Now I'm married to a billionaire with a successful art studio and a grandchild on the way. Life is strange. Life is perfect. No, it's not. Perfect would have been getting all those years back. But it's good, real, worth fighting for. Isabella stood, offered him her hand. Come on, let's go enjoy the life we actually have instead of mourning the one we lost. Dominic took her hand, let her pull him up from the couch, followed her upstairs to the bedroom they shared, to the life they'd built from ruins. And as he fell asleep that night with Isabella in his arms, something he'd dreamed about for 25 years, Dominic realized something profound. Some love stories don't have happy endings. Some relationships don't survive tragedy. Some promises get broken and can't be repaired. But some, the rare ones, the precious ones, the ones worth waiting for, endure. Through lies and loss and 25 years of separation, through broken hearts and missed chances, and all the ways life tried to keep them apart, those love stories don't end. They pause. They wait. They survive until the universe finally gets its act together and brings two people back to where they always belonged, together. If you enjoyed this story, click on the subscribe button, like and comment telling us where you are watching from so you don't miss any stories whenever we post. Thank you.